this video has no combat in it. Just figured I should mention that for some people. This video will, however, explain the people who live in Fodland. Thank you.
Part 1. White Clouds. Great Tree Moon. 3 houses. The icy winds of the Agma Mountains have begun to scatter, and the verdant fields once again spring to life across Fodland, heralding the start of a new year. As they celebrate the dawning year, the people pray that they may realize their full potential, just as a tiny sprout hopes to one day grow into a great tree. The continent of Fodland, said to be protected by a revered goddess, has existed since time immemorial. 3 ruling powers now control the land. In the south lies a region long held by a more than 1,000-year-old dynasty, the Adrestian Empire. Beyond its borders, to the frigid north, is the home of the Holy Kingdom of Fargus, ruled by the royal family and its knights. To the east, a league of nobles that heeds no king nor emperor rules what is called the Leicester Alliance. Once consumed by a tempest of war and turmoil, Fodland and these 3 mighty powers now exist in relative harmony.
This will be your first time at the monastery. I'd be happy to show you around.
It really is Fodland in a nutshell. The good and the bad.
Like it or not, we'll be there soon enough. There it is. Garrick Mock Monastery.
Is here.
I wonder, did the flow of time bring you here?
It's been years since I've last set eyes on this place. To be forced to see her now,
Her?
You saw her in the courtyard earlier, didn't you? The Archbishop, Lady Rhea.
The Archbishop?
As you know, the majority of folks in Fodland are devout followers of the teachings of Seros. The leader of that ridiculously large religious organization is the Archbishop, Lady Rhea.
Thank you for your patience, Gerald. My name is Setik. I am an advisor to the Archbishop.
Right. Hello.
It has been a long time, Gerald. I wonder, was it the will of the goddess that we have another chance meeting like this?
Forgive my silence all these years. Much has happened since we last spoke.
So I see. The miracle of fatherhood has blessed you. That is your child, is it not?
Yes. Born many years after I left this place. I wish I could introduce you to the mother of my child, but I'm afraid we lost her to illness.
I see. My condolences. As for you, I heard of your valiant efforts from Alois. What is your name?
My name is Byleth.
A fine name indeed. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for saving those students of the Officers' Academy. Gerald, you already know what it is I wish to say, do you not?
You want me to rejoin the Knights of Seros, don't you? I won't say no, but
Your apprehension stings. I had expected that Alois would have already asked this of you. I must step away for now, but I expect they will desire a word with you soon. Please listen carefully to what they have to say. Until tomorrow, farewell.
I can't believe it. Forced back into the Knights of Seros. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. Looks like I'll be stuck here for a while. And I'm afraid your services are requested as well.
Must work here? As a mercenary?
Nothing like that. They want you to teach, by the sound of it. You heard those brats earlier talking about the Officers' Academy, right? Well, the Academy just happens to be short a professor. And apparently that damned Alois went and recommended you to Lady Rhea.
So, you must be the new professor. My, how stern and handsome you are.
No. I'm not the one you're looking for. You can handle things from here. Good luck. And watch out for Lady Rhea. I don't know what she's thinking making you a professor like this. She may be up to something. Stay on your guard.
Oh, it's you then? So young.
Competence and age are not necessarily correlated, as you well know. I am Hanneman, a Crest Scholar and Professor at the Officers' Academy. I wonder if you bear a crest of your own. When next you have a moment to spare, I insist that you pay me a visit so we can delve into the subject further.
I'm Manuela. I'm a professor, a physician, a songstress, and available. It's nice to meet you.
You're a songstress?
Of course. Before I came here, I belonged to a renowned opera company. Perhaps you've heard of me? The Middlefranc Opera Company is beautiful, peerless.
Spare our colleague the needless chatter, Manuela. Now then, it seems you'll be taking charge of one of the Academy's 3 houses. I expect you haven't yet been briefed on the nature of each, have you?
Do you really not know? Fine. I'll do you a favor and explain. The Officers' Academy is comprised of 3 houses of students, each of which is closely affiliated with its region of origin. The Black Eagle House is for students from the Adrestian Empire. Their house leader this year is Edelgard, the Imperial Princess, who is in line to be the next emperor.
The Blue Lion House is for students from the Holy Kingdom of Fargus. Their house leader this year is Prince Dimitri. He is to be the next king of Fargus.
Lastly, there is the Golden Deer House, which is for students of the Leicester Alliance. Their house leader is Claude, grandson to Duke Regan, the leader of the Alliance.
To think that the next emperor, king, and sovereign duke are all here. It certainly is a promising year for the Academy.
I'll say. I just hope none of those little treasures cause any trouble.
Quite. For now, I suggest taking a stroll around the Academy to get your bearings. And when you've a moment, please stop by my research laboratory.
The old man has a point. Oh, and keep in mind that I've only notified the house leaders that you're our new professor. It's more fun that way. I suggest you try spending time with the students. Some odd ducks in that bunch, but they're good kids. I'm sure Lady Rhea will have more information for you tomorrow, but that should get you going. Good luck. You'll need it.
Have you no intention of changing your mind, Rhea? Appointing a stranger, a child no less, as a professor at our esteemed academy is...
I have made my decision, Sedith. I know worrying comes naturally to you, but there is truly no need. That stranger is Gerald's flesh and blood, after all.
I can't say that's all too comforting. How trustworthy is this Gerald character? Is he not the man who went missing after the Great Fire 21 years ago? I would remind you that Flame is now here with us as well. I beg of you, please consider whether this is an unnecessary risk.
Setith, they have my trust. Let that be enough for you as well. More importantly, I have received a report from Shamir. I am increasingly concerned about a matter regarding our suspicious individual. We cannot ignore those who harbor ill will toward the Church, especially if they are frequenting Garrick Mach.
Yes, that matter is of great importance as well. I shall continue my investigation. Rhea, for now I will have faith that you are placing your trust with the utmost care. I pray that nothing occurs to shake that confidence.
Of course.
So, here, we can actually start exploring the... Alright, hello everyone. I'm the Tuna Whale, and thanks game for giving me like 15 minutes of things I can't do anything in. Anyway, here's Rhea with our first task.
Teaching here at the Officers Academy, correct? To start, please speak with the 3 house leaders. You should also take a look around the academy and acquaint yourself with your new home. That is your first task here at the monastery. Please let me know if you accept it. Once you have finished, come and speak with me.
Of course, we're going to be working here. We might as well figure out what we're going to be doing. So let's accept this, and we get introduced to quests. Basically, someone will tell you something to do, and you do it. If you want, you can open up your menu with X, go into quests, and you can see more about it. Informal introductions. We can go around and meet all the leaders of 3 houses. Anyway, let's talk to these 2, Alois and
Sedef.
Sedef.
You were a bit surprised that I recommended you as a professor here. Frankly, we had someone else in mind for the role, but they ran off during our dust-up with the bandits. Can't entrust students to someone who's abandoned them once before, huh?
You saved the lives of the students you came across. That, at least, was admirable. Now you should make the rounds. Go around the monastery and see that you greet everyone.
But of course, we're going to be professor here. Might as well meet the people we're going to be teaching, or potentially teaching. Let's go down to the first floor, and here we are, in the reception hall. As you can see here, here's the first one of our house leaders, and we also get a nice cinematic to introduce us to the reception hall. We have a nice big shot, and this is basically where the students are going to be sitting and talking to each other, and yeah. So, because our quest is to talk to the house leaders and learn about who's in their house, let's talk to
you've
Edelgard.
accepted a teaching position here. Pity. I was hoping you would lend your strength to the Empire. I never properly introduced myself, did I? My name is Edelgard von Hresvelk. I am the princess and heir apparent of the Adrestian Empire. I wonder if you'll be tasked with leading the Black Eagles. I hope you've had a chance to meet everyone. Would you like to know more about any of the Black Eagles?
Yeah? So, here I'm going to be going... So, the way this is going to work is that we're going to be tasked to teach one of the 3 houses. And we'll get to talk to the house leaders and figure out who's in the house. Now, in front of me, I have a handy-dandy set of notes, which basically tells me, like, a quick summary about each of them. I've played through most of the routes and used each of these units at least at one point through my playthroughs. So I'll be giving you a quick rundown of who they are. But let's start with Edelgard herself.
Me? Well, some think I'm a bit distant. Arrogant, even. But there's little to be done. One day, I must rise to become Adrestia's next emperor. What else? Well, it seems to me that we may have similar personalities.
So, here I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how the stats work. As you can see, HP, 29 out of 29. That basically tells you how much damage you can take before you go down. Because we're playing on Classic mode, if the unit hits your HP, they die, and there's no replacing them because, I mean, that's what happens when you die. Next we have Strength, which is how much damage you're going to be doing if you hit them with a physical weapon like a sword or an axe. Magic is how much damage you're going to be doing with like magical weapons, well, not necessarily weapons, but magical spells. Dexterity will determine how often you'll activate skills, which we'll get into later, and how often you will hit and get critical hits on things. Again, we'll get more into those later. Hitting is pretty self-explanatory. Critical, you just deal 3 times as much damage. I guess I did go into it later. Anyway, if you hit something, you'll deal some damage. If you crit something, you'll deal 3 times the damage you would have done. For example, if you would deal 10 damage normally, with a critical hit, you'll deal 30 damage. Next up is Speed. Speed determines how, if you will avoid attacks, because, of course, if the enemy is attacking you, you'll have a chance to avoid it. The higher your speed is, the better the chance to avoid it is. And in addition, in this game, if you're attacking a unit with 4 more speed, if you're attacking a unit and you have 4 more speed than them, you'll be able to attack twice. And the way that works is if you're engaging, you'll attack once, they'll attack again, you'll attack again, and that'll be the end of the combat. But the inverse is also true. So let's say Edelgard was attacking a unit with 4 speed, she would double them, but if she was attacking a unit with 12 speed or got attacked by, she would get doubled. Next up is Luck. It goes a fair bit into everything. A little bit into everything, not a fair bit, but it also will activate certain skills that aren't activated by Dex. Also, forgive me if I say skills to the Dex. It's just this is the one game that they call it Dex instead of skill. I don't know why. It's dexterity. If I say skill, understand that I mean dexterity. Next, defense. That'll help reduce incoming physical damage. So if someone just swings a sword at Edelgard, she'll take a little bit less damage based on her defense. And resistance is the same thing for magical damage. So if someone tries to cast a spell on her, that's her resistance to the damage. Now, Charisma is the new stat to Fire Emblem 3 Houses, but we'll get into that later because it affects battalions and gambits, which we don't have control over now. You can also see that she has Defining Ability, which is a skill exclusive to Edelgard only. In this case, it multiplies her experience earned by 1.2, which makes it so she levels up a lot faster. Now that we've gotten that over, let's go into Edelgard herself as a unit. Now I will be talking about them as units because over time, as we start using them more and more, we'll get more in tune with their characters, but I'll just talk about a unit, what you can expect from them as you're playing through the game. So Edelgard, she has great strength and great defense, so she's really good to put on the front lines when she's taking physical damage, and her resistance isn't half bad either. In addition, if you would decide to make her a mage class, she's actually surprisingly good at it, and she gets certain bonuses, which I'll get into later with our next person. But now, let's move on to the next person down our line, Hubert.
Hubert is the heir of Marquis Vestra. He has served me since I was a child. You may think his blood runs a bit cold, but actually that's rather accurate. Still, if you can get past that, you'll see he's quite astute and reasonable.
So Hubert is a glass cannon with magic. He'll hit really hard. He'll usually double things because his speed's pretty good. But in exchange, if someone tries to swing a sword at him, he will take a lot of damage from it. But Hubert, usually the way you want to use him is as a mage. As you can see, his magic is 12, which is a lot, and he'll just deal a lot of damage when he hits things. In addition, he's one of the few units in this game who gets to use Dark Magic, which can only be used by 5 units, Edelgard being the first of them, Hubert's the second of them. I'll get into the third unit and the other 2 once we get to them, but suffice to say, Black Magic or Dark Magic is very rare. So, Hubert, Glass Cannon with Magic. Next on the list, Ferdinand von Ayer.
For some reason, he thinks of me as a bitter rival and is always trying to challenge me. It's terribly irritating. His house is that of Duke Ire, which produces Adrestia's prime ministers. That family is, perhaps, too pleased with its own status.
So, Ferdinand von Ayer, I'm just gonna say Ferdinand, I'm sorry for those of you who know what I'm referring to, but anyway, Ferdinand, he's the main cavalier in the Black Eagles, and typically cavaliers are well-rounded units. They can move quickly and usually double things that aren't that aren't amazingly fast. They do a good chunk of damage, and they can take some of a beating. Now, when compared to other cavaliers, he's more well-rounded, and he has higher bulkiness, so he can take more hits, but he has a little bit less dexterity, so he won't be hitting hits that the other cavaliers will hit. Now, each house will have a main lord, a main magic caster, a main cavalier, a main healer, and a main archer. We'll get more into who they are when we get to them, but suffice it to say, they want to make sure that you won't enter a house and realize you don't have a magic unit to crack through tough physical defensive units. Anyway, on to the next student, Linhardt.
He's remarkably intelligent, but he only wishes to apply himself to tasks that particularly interest him, and nothing else. He's also fond of, well, napping. If he had any work ethic or sense of duty to speak of, I suppose he would be destined to become an official of the Empire.
Here we have Linhardt. He's the main healer of the Black Eagles house. Now compared to the other healers, he's the well-rounded one. Instead of having a healing list of spells, because once a unit starts learning more and more magic, they'll learn spells from a predetermined list that's exclusive to them. Linhardt has magic that can both help him deal damage and heal allies. He's not the best healer, but he's not the best healer out of all the students at Garrick Mach, but he's at least very good for and does his job really well, and he will serve you well if you decide to choose the Black Eagles house. Yes. Now moving on to Caspar.
He's the second son of Count Bergliez. He has no inheritance in his future, which is perhaps why he's always so eager to prove himself. He's overly energetic and rushes headfirst into any battle. If he ends up in your care, be sure to keep a close eye on him.
Caspar's about what you expect from someone who's reckless and likes getting into fights. He will move quickly, so he'll often double units. He'll hit pretty hard when he hits, but unfortunately that leaves his defense a little bit lacking, and because of that he's usually stuck to classes that main axes or gauntlets or brawling. But we'll get more into that when we see more classes. Now to Bernadetta.
She's Count Varley's only daughter. I suppose you could say she's a bit eccentric, but she seems like a gentle soul. I believe she's shut herself away in her quarters and doesn't care to leave, but don't worry, I'll make sure she finds her way to class.
Bernadetta here is the main archer of the Black Eagles. Now, when compared to the other main archers, she has better speed and dexterity, but lower strength, which makes it hard for her to use if she doesn't get good level ups in strength. But other than that, she's a pretty good unit. She will double things, and she won't really have trouble hitting things. But again, her low strength makes her a little bit hard to use. But luckily, with her personal skill, which I usually only go into if it really helps the unit, it gives her +5 damage when she is not at full health, which really helps in the early game when units have, say, 20 HP, because dealing 5 extra damage to units with not much HP is very, very helpful. Dorothea is next.
Few commoners have joined the Black Eagle House, but Dorothea is an exception. She's a songstress from a famous opera company in the Empire. I'm not entirely sure what brought her to the Officers' Academy.
Here we have Dorothea. Now, when compared to Hubert and Linhardt, she isn't as good at dealing damage as Hubert, and she doesn't have use of dark magic, nor is she as great as healing as Linhardt, though she is a lot more not a lot more, but she has more survivability than those two. Now, usually units who use magic also have pretty good res, so she can do a good job at fighting other mages, but she also has a salvageable strength, so if you want to use her to use swords, that is a possibility, though not the main way you'd use her. You mainly want to use her as a kind of backup caster. So if you have Hubert in one place, for example, you could send Dorothea to another place and help another group of characters. And finally, Petra.
To the west of Fodlan is an archipelago called Brigid. Petra is the granddaughter of their king. Bridget is a vassal state of the Empire, which is how she came to be enrolled here. She's incredibly smart and studious.
Finally, to round up the Black Eagle's house, we have Petra, and she has great speed, and she has a good strength and dex score. Mainly, she's going to be using swords and bows, and so she's going to be making a great thief or archer, but unfortunately, her strength score is a little bit shaky, so she might not get, she might not be able to one-round all kinds of enemies, but suffice it to say, she's really fast, so she will have no problem doubling them, and because of that, that gets around her shaky strength, at least to some extent. That's all the members of the Black Eagle's house. Let's talk to this person here.
You must be the new professor. What a pleasure. As for me, my job is to stand here at this glorious entrance and leisurely watch over the comings and goings of everyone. Make folks smile, you know? And by that, I mean to vigilantly guard this entrance with my very life. No levity whatsoever. As of now, nothing to report.
People like that guy a lot. I like him too. Anyway, let's go over here into the Officers' Academy, the place where the three houses each have their classroom. As you can see, here's the classroom of the Black Eagles, for example, and you can see the students inside. I'll at least try to talk to the students every time we are here in the Officers' Academy if they have anything new, but let's talk to Claude, the second leader of the house, and then we'll start meeting some of the students.
Well, scored a teaching gig here, did you? Talk about a great first impression. I guess that means I'd better introduce myself properly. I'm Claude von Regan. I'm from the ruling house of the Leicester Alliance, but don't worry too much about all that madness. I'm guessing you don't know which class you'll be teaching yet, do you? I bet you'd like ours. We're not as difficult as the other two. Have you met the folks from the Golden Deer House yet? Care to know more about anyone?
Sure. First off, let's meet Claude.
Piqued your interest, have I? As luck would have it, I'm pretty curious about you as well. But what's life without a bit of mystery? Let's just spend the next year or so learning about each other little by little.
So here we have Claude. Again, as the main lord of the Golden Deers, he's a great unit, and he'll mainly be using bows. I forgot to mention with Edelgard, but she'll mainly be using axes. But anyway, back to Claude because this is his time in the spotlight. When compared, well, I guess I have to compare him to the other lords. When compared to Dimitri and Edelgard, he won't be hitting as hard, but he'll also be a lot faster. But in exchange, he'll be a lot faster and have some more skill, so he'll be able to hit things more often and double things more often. But in exchange, his bulkiness is a fair bit lower than those two, so you can't really put him on the front lines. But again, archers in this game are pretty good because, let's just say that they have certain advantages in battle. I'll be getting more into that when we use archers and when we get into more battles, but Claude is a really good unit because he's one of the lords. Moving down, we have Lorenz.
He's the heir of Gloucester territory. If you haven't already picked up on it, he's a bit arrogant and fancies himself a ladies' man. That said, deep down he's really devoted and honest. Though I wouldn't mind never hearing him talk about his noble obligations ever again.
So, here we have Lorenz. Unfortunately, Lorenz isn't exactly a great unit. Now, you might have noticed that Ferdinand, being a noble, he was a cavalier. Now, of course, there are other noble units who aren't cavaliers, but Lorenz you might think is also the main cavalier, but no, that's reserved for someone else. But, as I said, Lorenz is a jack of all trades. He can use everything fairly well. As you can look at his stats, his strength and magic aren't that far apart. But unfortunately, being a jack of all trades, he doesn't really have enough strength to fully devote himself to being a cavalier. He doesn't exactly have the magic stat to crack through like powerful magic units. So he's at least a somewhat usable unit if you put some investment into him. Now we have Raphael.
He comes from a merchant family, but his parents died in an accident. Seems like he's had a rough life. Despite all that, he's just about the most cheerful guy you'll ever meet. His passions are training, eating, and actually that's about it.
So here we have Raphael. He's going to be the person using axes and gauntlets in the Golden Tier. And, well, okay, his name is Raphael. Apologies, I'm gonna try to call him Raphael, but I might call him Raphael. There's a long story behind that, but we don't have time to get into that because this video is already about half an hour long. Anyway, when compared to Caspar, he has a lot more physical defense, though he's a lot slower than Caspar, so he won't double everything Caspar would. And he also has awful res, so if he goes up against a magic unit, oftentimes he will get doubled by them and he will get defeated in one round. Moving on, Ignatz, the main archer of the Golden Tier.
He's the second son of a merchant family. Since his brother will inherit the business, he's training to become a knight. If you ask me, it doesn't seem like he truly wants to be a knight. He's probably just doing it to please his parents.
So here we have Ignatz. Out of the 3 archers, he has the highest skill and skill growth, which is what determines when his stat will level up. Now, he will have no problem hitting things even when he has to take penalties on attacking. But in exchange, he has low survivability and he has a shaky strength growth. So if you get unlucky, he might not be able to kill units who are fairly bulky. Now we are at Lysithea.
Lysithea is the daughter of Count Ordelia, and is probably the youngest student here. But watch out, she gets angry if you treat her like a child. As for me, I do it on purpose. You have to make your own fun in this place, you know?
So Lysithea is the glass cannon mage out of everyone in this game. She will hit extremely hard, she will usually be able to double things, and she has an amazing magic growth and stat. As you can see, she has 11, which is really good. In addition, she is the 3rd unit who can use dark magic in this game. Now, unfortunately, glass cannon, as it implies, she'll hit really hard, but if she gets hit by an attack, especially by a physical attack, she will crumple like paper, or break like glass, depending on whichever metaphor you want to use. Now here we have Marianne.
Marianne is Margrave Edmund's daughter, and that's pretty much all I know about her. She doesn't interact much with other students, so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of folks here have never even heard her speak.
Here we have Marianne. She's the main healer of the Golden Tier, and unlike the other 2 main healers who have spell lists based around being able to heal well, she has a spell list based around dealing damage. She'll get spells that'll help her crack through enemies, but in exchange she won't have as great of healing potential as the other 2 main healers. But yeah, that's Marianne. Now on to Hilda.
Hilda is the only daughter of Duke Goneril. It seems her father and brother coddle her quite a bit. If you look up lazy in the dictionary, her picture won't be there because she never got around to submitting it. Not too unusual for a noble, I guess.
Here we have Hilda. She has great strength and great speed, but her low dexterity makes her have not a great chance of hitting her enemies, especially considering that she's usually going to be using axes. Axes already have low hit, and in combination with her low dexterity means that she's going to have some trouble hitting things. There are ways to get around that, but unless you go through with those, she'll have trouble like being able to hit anything that she doesn't have triangle advantage with, or that is very slow. Now onto Leonie.
Leonie enrolled because she wants to be a mercenary. I think she said that her father is a hunter. She's pretty blunt and as stingy as they come. A habitual saver, too. I think she's hoping to repay her village for helping to send her here.
Now, Leonie here is the main cavalier of the Golden Deers. When compared to Ferdinand, she has better dex and speed, but she has a little bit less strength and survivability. Though, that isn't a bad thing. If you pick her as your cavalier, she's going to do really well, because even though she has slightly lower strength growth rate than Ferdinand, she will still have no problem killing units, and because she has a strength in bows, that means that if you want to give her a bow, she can hit enemies while being able to move on cavalry. Now, Ferdinand can do that too, but not as well as Leonie here. But enough of me talking, let's go and meet some of the students that we could potentially be teaching. Let's start with talking to Ignatz.
So you're the skilled mercenary who saved Claude, are you?
Oh, you are? It's such an honor to meet you. Ignatz Victor. My parents are Alliance merchants.
And I am Lysithea von Ordelia. Please do not forget it.
Cool. We have Marianne talking to Hilda.
Are you that mercenary? Everyone's been talking about you. I'm Hilda Valentine Goneril, and her name is...
Marianne von Edmund.
Are you joining the Knights of Seros or something? Well, I look forward to seeing more of you.
What do you think?
We have some students talking. I will in general try not to be talking to them in this episode because, I mean, it's already going to be a bazillion hours long.
Are you someone's guest? The dining hall's that way, if that's what you're looking for.
No, Raphael. That's Captain Gerald's kid. Hi, I'm Leonie Pinelli, Captain Gerald's first and greatest apprentice. I'm sure he's told you about me.
Nice to meet you. I'm Raphael Kirsten. Who are you again?
Cool. Now let's move on to the next house of students. Or never mind, there's someone in here we haven't talked to. As you can see, the minimap tells you that, and let's talk to Lorenz.
You must be the renowned mercenary who rescued Claude. Honestly, you should not have troubled yourself over the likes of him. My name is Lawrence Hellman Gloucester. You will want to remember it.
But of course. Anyway, let's move on to the next house, which is the house of the Blue Lions. Here we have Sylvain.
Hey there. Are you the mercenary who saved His Highness? It's an honor to meet you. I'm Sylvain Jose Gautier. Feel free to say hi whenever you like.
We have in the back Felix talking to Ingrid.
I have heard all about what you did from Prince Dimitri. As a citizen of Fargus, I thank you.
He also said you're quite skilled. And he doesn't just say things like that. I look forward to sparring with you and beating you.
Felix, must you always speak of fighting right away? Oh, and, you may call me Ingrid. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Here we have Mercedes and Annette.
And who's this? You don't look familiar at all. Do you work here at the monastery?
Oh, Mercy! Do you think this is that mercenary people have been talking about?
Now that I think about it, that does sound like something Dimitri may have said. I suppose you'll be enrolling at the Officers' Academy too, then? Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Mercedes, and this is my best friend.
I'm Annette. It's nice to meet you.
Cool. And let's talk to the last two students inside here, Dudu and Ash.
Hi there. You must be the one everyone's talking about. I'm Ash. Great to meet you. This here is Dudu. He serves Prince Dimitri.
I have heard that you rescued His Highness. Words cannot express my gratitude. Should you ever require my strength, please know that I will hasten to repay this debt.
Cool. I know he's... There we go. There's Dimitri,
Please
leader of the
accept
Blue
my
Lions.
apologies for the other day. You came to our aid, yet I hadn't even the courtesy to properly introduce myself. I am Dimitri Alexandra Blathid, Crown Prince of the Holy Kingdom of Fargus. Of course, at the Academy, I am simply a student. And I've heard word that you are to become a professor here. Delightful news. I still have much to learn, but I'm confident I could benefit greatly from your guidance. In any case, welcome to the monastery. I hear you're investigating the different houses here. Did any of the Blue Lions catch your attention?
Yes, we met them earlier, but let's start with Dimitri himself.
Me? Oh, please forgive me. It's difficult to open up on the spot, don't you think? I'm afraid my story has not been a pleasant one. I do hope that doesn't color your view of me, but I understand if that can't be helped.
Here we have Dimitri. He has good HP and defense, which lets him take physical units pretty well. And he has great strength, dexterity, and speed, which lets him double units and crack them with one attack, because that's what you expect from a unit with great strength and great speed. Unfortunately, he has lowish luck, which means that sometimes he'll get critical hit by things that shouldn't crit him, as luck helps with critical avoid. And he has low resistance, which means that mages will be somewhat of a problem. Now, his resistance isn't low enough that he will get defeated in one round, though you do not want him to fight multiple mages in one turn, as they will do a good chunk of damage to him, leaving him low. Next we have Dudu.
Dudu was born in Dusker, and has been loyally working in my service for the past 4 years. He's rather taciturn, but once you get to know him, you'll see he's a kind and good-natured young man.
Here we have Dudu, and he's a physical tank. He has a lot of defense, so he won't really be taking much damage, and especially later on in the game, once you've leveled him up a fair bit, he will take very little damage from units with physical attacks. Even units who have a bunch of strength and a good weapon, they won't be doing that much damage to Dudu. Now, at the cost of that, he doesn't have the greatest speed and the greatest resistance. As you can see, his resistance is 1. Because of that, mages are a big weakness, and they will basically always remain a big weakness to him, unless you do a lot of investment into him. In addition, if you don't want him to be a physical tank, you can help him take other classes, and help him mitigate his weakness and strength, though it won't really help him with his weakness and resistance, and that will come at the cost of some of his bulkiness. Next, Felix.
Felix is the heir to House Fraldarius. He has a bit of a sharp tongue, but don't let that fool you. Deep down, he's a good guy. He gravitates toward people who are skilled. Perhaps you would enjoy a friendly competition with him sometime.
Felix here is one of the better units in the game. He has great strength, speed, and dexterity, which means he will be hitting things, he'll be doing a lot of damage, and often doubling those things that he hits. So that makes him a great unit. He isn't exactly the most bulky unit, but he won't just crumple in one round to an attack. We have Ash here.
He's the adoptive son of Lord Lenato of Castle Gaspar, but I hear he was born a commoner. He has an extremely earnest personality, so I'm certain he will approach your lectures with great enthusiasm.
Here we have Ash. He's the main archer of the Blue Lions, and though he is a bit better than Bernadetta stat-wise and has a bit better growths, unfortunately, his lack of a crest, which I'll get into that later, and his lack of a personal skill that'll help him in combat, kind of work against him in those two ways. Still, though, he's a decent enough unit, and he will serve you well if you choose the Blue Lions. Now we have Sylvain.
Sylvain is the heir to House Gautier. He is a capable person who highly values his friends. That said, well, he's always been a bit of a skirt chaser, so to speak. Pardon my bluntness. I speak with him about it often, but it doesn't seem to help.
Here we have Sylvain, and he's the main cavalier of the Blue Lions. Now, unlike Ferdinand, he is able, and Leonie, he's able to use magic fairly well, so if you wanted to take that route, he can do that too. And also, later on, we'll be able to use classes that can use mounts and magic, which he will fit into very well. Though, in exchange of that, he has a little bit less luck and dexterity than the other two, and he isn't exactly as great of a physical unit as the other two, though still, his ability to use magic makes him a fairly good unit. Moving on to Mercedes.
I hear she was born to imperial nobility, but a twist of fate brought her to the kingdom. She may seem carefree on the surface, but she's actually a kind soul who pays careful attention to everyone around her.
Here we have Mercedes, who is the main healer of the Blue Lions. Now, when compared to Linhardt and Marianne, she has a much better spell list for healing, and she gets to use one of the best healing spells in the game, Fortify, though we'll be getting into that later. And she also has a great personal skill, Live to Serve, which means whenever she heals a unit, she'll get healed that much herself. So if she heals 20 HP from an ally, she'll heal herself up for 20 HP, which makes it so you do not have to worry about having a second healer to heal her. And it also means that you can have her take some hits and understand that she will heal someone else the next turn and she'll heal up herself. So she is a great healer for the Blue Lions. Moving on to Annette now.
Annette is Baron Dominic's niece. She is a talented student who scored extremely high marks at the Royal School of Sorcery. She's cheerful and hardworking. Brilliant, really. Though she can be a bit oblivious at times. I hear she caused an explosion in the kitchen last night.
Here we have Annette, and she is the main caster of the Blue Lions. She doesn't hit as hard as Lysynthia or as Hubert, though she is a bit more bulky than those two. But she also, she's a bit more bulky than Lysynthia and Hubert, and she has a bit more dex, so she'll be able to hit things more often. Though she has a little bit of a low speed growth rate, so she might have some trouble doubling things, but it's not terribly bad. Finally, we have Ingrid.
Ingrid is Count Galatia's daughter. She is also a childhood friend of Felix, Sylvain, and myself. She is diligent, industrious, and principled. In truth, she is more knightly than most knights you will ever meet.
Ingrid here has great speed and great all-around stats. And though her strength's a little bit low, it is salvageable. Ingrid herself is a great unit because, again, as I said, she doesn't really have any big flaws. For example, other units who hit hard, they might have low resistance, but she doesn't have. Though her physical defense is a bit lacking, it isn't, like, unsalvageable, and she won't just die in one hit.
I appreciate your effort.
We finished a quest for Lady Rhea, and we get ourselves an Iron Sword, a Vulnerary, and 500 gold. Let's continue exploring before we return to Rhea, because there's still one house we haven't met. Let us talk to these two goofballs in the back.
Is it true that you saved Edelgard? That's incredible. The name's Caspar, by the way. Pleased to meet you.
Linhardt, goodbye.
Sheesh, Linhardt. How'd you get into the academy with those manners? So, are you a student here too? Maybe we'll be in the same class.
Maybe we will. Let's move on to Petra here, and Hubert.
I am Hubert, a humble servant of Lady Edelgard. I heard you came to the aid of Her Highness. You have my most sincere thanks. This is Petra. She has come all the way from Brigid to study in the Empire. Back on her archipelago, she is actually a princess. In Fodlan terms, she would be called heir to the throne.
Hello, I am called Petra. I am pleased to be meeting with... I am pleased to have met you.
Cool. Let's talk to Dorothy here by the bookcase.
Well, aren't you just lovely? Is this your first time in the monastery? Shall I show you around? Oh, my name is Dorothea. Before I joined the academy, I was a member of an opera company in the Empire. You should hear me sing sometime.
And then let's talk to Ferdinand and Bernadetta.
What? I don't talk to strangers.
Bernadetta, this is no stranger. Our house leader owes this person a great debt. Is that not right? I am Ferdinand von Eyre, legitimate son of the Eyre family, the Empire's foremost house. Are you going to join our class? I look forward to getting better acquainted with you.
Now let's return to Rhea now that we've met everyone.
How are you enjoying your time at the academy thus far? I hope you have found our halls brimming with the vitality of well-intentioned souls.
I suppose it is time for you to take charge of one of our 3 houses of students. I must note that I am personally against entrusting someone as lacking in trackable history as yourself with such a task. But it is as the Archbishop desires.
The Black Eagles, the Blue Lions, and the Golden Deer. All so different. I hope you've made it a point to get to know each of them.
Since you are new here, we have decided to allow you first pick. Manuela and I will take charge of the remaining 2 houses.
Which house will I choose? We have the choice between the Black Eagle House, the Blue Lions, and the Golden Deer. And though there's no real wrong choice, there's no house that's severely lacking in one thing, I'll choose the Black Eagles, as in episode 1 I said that's where my allegiance lies.
So you have chosen the Black Eagles led by Edelgard, correct?
But of course.
Your heart has made its choice then. All I ask is that you guide these open minds with virtue, care, and sincerity.
They are all promising youths who bear the weight of Fodlan's future upon their shoulders. I hope you appreciate what an honor it is to lead them.
Brother? Oh, I am so sincerely sorry. I did not mean to interrupt.
I'm in the middle of something, Flame. Is it urgent?
No, it's nothing. More importantly, who is this?
This is our newest professor at the Academy.
Oh my! A new addition to the Officers' Academy! I am so very pleased to meet you, Professor. I am Sedith's little sister, Flame. I am so happy to make your acquaintance.
Let us focus on the topic at hand. There is something you should be aware of. In a few days' time, there will be a mock battle between the 3 houses, intended to gauge the current progress of the students. We will be using this battle as an opportunity to ascertain your own abilities as well. Please do not disappoint the Archbishop. That is all.
Wait, so our new professor is you? I didn't see that one coming.
Easy, Caspar. Aren't you being a bit rude?
You know it's a waste of time to expect politeness from him. It will be a pleasure learning from you, Professor. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to take a nap.
Don't look at me like that! Oh, and please don't talk to me too much either. I'm sorry for the chaos you've walked into.
I hear we are rather close in age, Professor. I hope you do not mind if we treat you like one of us. In our class, we try to treat each other as equals, despite any differences in age or status. Personally, I would love to include you in that inner circle.
I don't mind at all.
You have a gut, Professor. I will take great joy from your teachings.
Petra, I believe you mean to say that our professor has guts. That's a bit different from having a gut. You can't go around saying someone so slim and attractive has a gut.
Please take my apologies. I have not yet mastered this language.
Professor, I want you to know that it's perfectly acceptable for you to treat me as you do the others. I may be the Imperial Princess, but here at the Academy, I'm just another student. That said, know that I have high expectations of you, and high hopes. But I'm certain you can lead the Black Eagle House to greatness.
Sure. Now let's break the ice with a training session. I want to see our new teacher in action.
Why will the ice be broken? Is this a custom I have missed in my studies?
Not real ice, just the ice of, well, it just means let's get to know each other.
I don't want to train. Let's stay in the classroom and learn from a book.
Let's all calm down and have a nice cup of tea, how about? Doesn't that sound lovely, Professor?
I know we all agreed to treat each other as equals, but there is a limit to what I can tolerate. The esteemed Black Eagle House requires order.
Looks like your first job will be to quiet down this racket. I don't envy you.
They're not normally this rowdy. I do hope you can manage, Professor.
Alright, before we explore the new places in the monastery, first off, I am so sorry about how long this video is. I'm going to try to do some things to make it shorter, but I can see right now, my recording tells me this is 53 minutes long. I am so sorry, I didn't realize how long it was. It's just, this game wants to set down the foundations of who everyone is, and I didn't realize how long it would take to explain who everyone is in every house. So please forgive me about that. Anyway, next time we'll be exploring more places in this monastery, and hopefully we'll be having something more interesting to do. Again, I am so sorry about how long this is, but hopefully now things should be getting faster.